Anime. You're here with Kadir and Akil. We're discussing our first look at Platinum End, and let's get into it.
Yes, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications and updates. And without further ado, let's get into it.
Yes. Platinum Ends is a Studio Perio animated anime. So my initial thoughts were like, I was not sure how much I would like a Battle Royale anime. I feel like it's been overdone, but Platinum Ends is definitely like super unique, I think. So the first thing that I immediately thought of was how it was related to like Fate, the Fate series, you know, like Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works, and all that jazz. What about you, Akil?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it definitely did remind me of that with the whole tournament. And especially with the fact that like everybody kind of contracts with like their angels, I guess, which was very similar to the contracting with the hero type system.
Yeah.
In Fate. This anime was made by the same person who made Death Note.
Really?
Definitely, yes. I was gonna say it's a bit noticeable in the animation style, but I thought it was interesting because Death Note followed like Shikigami or like devils, whereas Platinum End follows for angels, and so I thought that contrast was very interesting.
That's really cool. I had no idea that the creator of Death Note also made Platinum Ends. That's sure to make a lot of hardcore anime fans proud, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of felt that the abilities were overpowered. Didn't you? Did you kind of feel that way too? With like,
yes, I did.
Yeah.
It was funny because when she was offering, originally she said, "Do you want the wings or the arrow, the red arrow?" And that made it seem as though like, oh, you can only pick one. And then he says, "Well, give me everything." And she's like, "Okay, like you can literally get everything." Gives him not only the wings and not only the red arrow, but also the white arrow. And honestly, like the extent of the powers, I mean, for the red one, it makes them in love with you to the point where like they'll do whatever you said. Like he told the aunt that like they should go die, and she went and took her life right after hearing that. And so the extent of which like the control goes definitely seems to make the red arrow incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and then you have the other powers like the white arrow, which is 100% death. You can't dodge it.
And yeah, I'm not sure. Because that seems like, I was like, there's no way. It's just whoever uses the white arrow first then is the winner.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. And if you see someone else with their angel, you would just cast on them immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if there are some conditions that need to be met before you can use the white arrow, or if there are a certain number of times you can use it, or if there's like a cooldown. But there might be something else that the angel was omitting with the white arrow.
Yeah, those are good points. I didn't think about that, but in terms of drawbacks, it definitely seems as though there should be some, especially with how overpowered some of these abilities seem. And the wings as well, because whenever you're using them, you're moving faster than the human eye can perceive. So at that point, a lot of people, you could easily blitz and they would have no idea what's even happening to them.
Yeah, and it seems like there's not going to be many people who understand what's going on around them, considering that angels can only be seen by 12 other people, you know, because there's only 13 in total.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask if you knew the reason or significance behind the number 13 and why there were 13 angels and contestants in the competition. I wasn't able to think of anything.
I couldn't think of anything. If it was 12, I could be like, oh, maybe they were trying to do like a disciple parody in terms of, and then maybe 13 in the sense that since it was Jesus and his 12 disciples, and this is like deciding a new God, maybe that's where they're getting the 13 from.
Oh, and then the 13th turns out to be like Jesus because they become the next God.
The next God, yes.
That kind of makes sense. I could buy that. And I wonder if anyone else had asked for both, like Mirai did.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see someone else with a white arrow at the end of the episode.
Yeah, and it seems as though he's making quick work to eliminate his competition. I'm not sure how he's tracking them down so easily, but
yeah,
he was ruthless with it.
Well, it seems like the person that he killed also was pretty reckless. They didn't seem like they had a great, great discipline when it came to keeping their powers hidden, you know? because he
Yeah,
was
I was
in
gonna
a
say
yeah.
he was definitely using them in flashy ways to try to like flaunt a lifestyle.
Yeah. So I'm hoping Mirai is a bit smarter. And that brings up the last guy who I guess we're going to get into at the end there. But for now, let's just talk about like the major plot points, I guess. So, the anime starts out with Mirai and he's about to commit suicide. So, already off to a great start, right, Akio?
Yeah, I was gonna say when they at first when he was about to jump off, I was a little confused as what was happening because all we had seen before that was just like the fact that he didn't really have many friends at school.
Yeah.
And then as he kind of gives his backstory of what like happened to his parents and younger brother, and how his uncle and aunt abused him and just used the money that came with him to like push them and their kids into like a better, more luxurious life. I can understand why he was at the end of his rope at that point,
Yeah, and it appears like he was abused growing up. It just didn't seem like a positive existence at all. So I could kind of see why he wanted to commit suicide. And the fact that his angel saved him right before he hit the ground and gave him the option to be an angel, that kind of seemed like it came out of the blue.
Yeah. But that's the thing, I think it was during the transition scenes, it said something about like who qualifies to become a candidate to become the new god.
Yeah.
And I think it's people who have like lost a reason or the will to live are the ones who can become candidates. And I found that interesting. Like, why was that decided to be the requirement to even just like enter the competition?
Yeah, I wonder who set the rules of the competition. I'm guessing it was the previous god.
Yeah, I would have to assume so. But again, like the question is then, why are they looking for a new god? Are they tired of having all the responsibility and they want to retire?
Right.
Are they dying? Is it like when you take it on, you only have a certain amount of time that you can be in that position before you have to pass it on?
And you'd think that the god the current god would be able to just know who would be a good candidate and just pick them automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So it brings up more questions as to why this whole competition is necessary. But I guess we're just going to have to enjoy that it's part of the story and just let it unfold.
Yes.
So the next plot point was that the angel says that they've always been watching Mirai and even tells Mirai the part where his uncle plotted his family's death. That was pretty hardcore.
I was gonna say about the revelation, he didn't even want to believe it at first, and then the angel told him, like, if you don't believe me, like, use the red arrow. They'll tell you themselves.
Yeah. Speaking of when he used the red arrow, the aunt got kind of wild there, don't you think?
Yeah. Listen, I don't know. Seemed a little problematic. Mirai still seemed pretty young,
Yeah. Not only that, but I wasn't sure what kind of love the red arrow would emit. Like if it was like relationship type love, like where you love a sibling is different from how you love someone you're dating, for example. Yeah. So I wasn't sure.
I wonder if it's possible to control, like as you learn how the power works, to control what kind of love you evoke from someone when you hit them with the red arrow.
That is that's a good prediction.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that being the case, at least for when Mirai learns more of his powers down the line. But he got a pretty good hang of them at the end of the episode. He already knew how to do the red arrow. He learned how to use the wings. And, he has access to the white arrow. We just don't know what the conditions are to use it yet.
I'm not even sure whether Mirai will want to use it. It seems as though, because there were a couple moments in the episode where he just kind of had revelations that I thought were really cool and touching. Like when he was flying with the wings for the first time, and as he was just talking about how he dreamed of flying, but this felt even more amazing. And he kind of like touched the water before flying up, and some tears came out of his eyes, and he wasn't even sure why he was crying. I thought that was a really profound moment because the angel had said when she was giving the powers to him that she wanted him to find happiness. That was what her goal was. Yeah. And so I found it interesting that like this boy who had like not seen any kind of happiness in so many years and had known nothing but despair for him to have that moment of like true pure happiness away from everything else in his life that just like brought him to tears was just like a really powerful moment in the anime.
Yeah. Speaking of the powers, it seems like he has to be careful with how he uses them. Because, like we were saying with the red arrow, it's super effective, gives him 100% of control of who's in love with him. And he has to choose his words carefully because you remember the sentence he used to kill his aunt. He just said she should just die. And then she didn't even hesitate to slit her own throat, which is crazy.
Yeah. And that's the thing. When you were talking about what kind of love it evokes, at first, with the way she was acting, I thought it was like a lustful kind of love. But the fact that like the second he said it, she like killed herself because he instructed to. I think it's more like a devotion type of love where it's just like you're so like obsessed and in love with this that you would do whatever it took for them.
Right. Blind devotion. That's an
and I thought it was interesting considering that since they're fighting for the spot of God, like that would be the kind of love that like the red arrow would evoke.
Yeah. So getting into the next part, the angel reveals her name as Nassie, Nasse. I wasn't sure if that had a biblical reference. It didn't strike anything as familiar to me, and I admittedly didn't bother to look it up. Does that stand out to you at all?
No, I couldn't find any biblical connection either. But it's possible maybe that it's just something that we're not familiar with, you know?
Yeah. I wonder how he's going to find happiness, given that he resolves not to use the wings or the arrow to find it. Because he was saying that he wanted the kind of happiness he had before he lost his family. But it seems like what he was doing up till now wasn't working. Otherwise, he would have found happiness and not been on the brink of suicide. So I'm wondering what his plans are moving forward. And I guess we'd find out in the next episode.
Yeah, listen, I think he's going to have to put those hopes of finding that happiness like he had before on pause, because now that he understands that there are 13 people who have been selected to become God candidates like him, and it's a true competition where they will be killing each other for the spot.
Yeah,
he's gonna have to focus more on his game plan and what he's gonna do when these people come, especially because he seems very apprehensive to kill people after what happened with his aunt. You know, that moment where he was clutching his chest and crying and talking about how he understood how precious life was, I guess.
Yeah, it was kind of traumatic for him because he saw his family die, obviously.
Yeah, and so just to see another person die in front of him, especially someone who right before they died, he hated so intensely, you know?
Yeah.
Knowing that they were responsible for his loss of happiness and his family.
Literally, the number one cause of all the despair he had since his family had passed away, you know? So I guess let's get into the final scene of the episode. So the red arrow user who was in the back of the car was shot by someone in a mech suit with a white arrow. So it appears that, we should explain that white arrows are only accessible to special rank angels. And so Nass is a special rank angel. And whoever is supporting this mystery character is also a special rank angel. So I think it's worth noting that there's more than one. And there might be higher ranks as well. So I think there's a lot of directions that the anime could go, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I definitely think it's going to be very interesting to see this story unfold, learn more about the powers and the angel ranking system, and maybe if I'm wondering, you know how there are multiple special rank angels, but I wonder if like each special rank angel has like a certain power that's specific to them. Like maybe there's another power Mirai has that she forgot to mention that is exclusive to her because he's being supported by her, and whoever the mech suit person is would have this power that's special to them because of who they ended up having as their angel.
Yeah, Mirai kind of reminds me of like a fusion between L and Light in appearance and attitude. You remember how Light was kind of against using the powers of the Death Note at first,
Yes.
But then as the series continued, he kind of got more and more consumed by the power that he had. I think that we're going to find that same thematic with Mirai, but I think he's also going to be really smart with his abilities like L.
I was going to say, I think that's interesting. A good point that you're bringing up. Especially because now you got me thinking, it's inevitable, I guess, that when you have these powers, especially because of how the angels were acting. Remember, Nasi was, or however it's said.
Yeah.
When she gave the powers to Mirai, she was telling him he could do whatever he wanted. He could rob banks if he wanted to, because the wings would make him too fast. He could make whoever he wanted fall in love with him and live however he wanted to. And he commented how it was strange. Like, are you sure? He was like, are you sure you're an angel? Like, those things don't sound like things an angel would support people doing. And so I'm just kind of wondering, at what point, after killing all these other god candidates, like, how corrupted will you end up becoming by the power that you got? And at that point, will you still even be like worthy enough to become the next god if you've been corrupted beyond a certain point?
Yeah, you bring up a good point, Akil, because Nas was talking about killing the other members of his uncle's family, and it didn't even seem like she batted an eye, remember? Mm-hmm. He was horrified at what she was suggesting, but she was just indifferent to it.
And I thought another thing about this anime interesting when Mirai asked her about devils, and she said that devils don't exist, but if they did, they would live in the hearts of humans.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's maybe going to be a theme that we'll continue to see throughout the show, the idea that, like, the hatred in human hearts is our devils, and so maybe we'll end up seeing that play out more as the story progresses.
Yeah, someone will definitely be using their powers corruptedly, and it's gonna be interesting to see how Mirai deals with his own personal code of conduct versus someone who might not have any moral. Like, what if a serial killer gets the powers?
Oh man, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Because at that point, who could stop them? They would go on a rampage and...
Yeah. They would probably make an entire city fall in love with them and just tell them all to kill themselves. I also want to know if the red arrow can be used on other candidates as well.
Ooh, that's a good question. Or maybe they might end up being immune to the mind control effects.
Maybe, yeah. There's a whole lot of possibilities that I think stem with this anime, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes. So I guess with that, it kind of ends our initial thoughts on Platinum End. Obviously, if you guys are interested, definitely watch the series, and those of you that do, please leave some comments on what you thought of the anime. Anything else to add, Akil?
Yeah. Just make sure, as I said it before, I'll say it again, leave a like on the episode, comment down below, share with your friends. If you have any other anime you'd like to see us do a first look of, make sure to mention them down in the comments below. And other than that, yeah, Q&A out.
Q&A out.